And I'm now going to take a fine section from the original section back to the end of that area. And when you do that, you want to make sure that you pull all the hair back. Don't allow it to bag, because when you pull back, you're going to get looseness underneath. So make sure you pull all the way back. And I like to do fine sections. If you wanted this to be fatter, just 1 or 2 sections, that's up to you. I find it creates more interest by doing this. So we're just going to pull that back. And because the hair is nice and soft, it's been washed, it's been blow dried, because you're not setting it up, you can find it's a little bit too soft. So what I like to do, just grab a little C8, the volume chalk, just lightly tap that into the hair, and what that'll do is it will just give you a little bit of grip, but you can still have a nice soft silky look, but you've got that little bit of grip that you want to get that hair into place. We're pulling it across again, under, over, grab our pin, in place. So again, by going backwards and forwards on each side, it's another way of locking the hair into place, rather than back combing or cross pinning, which we do with a lot of classical updos. With this, we're using the backwards and forwards as a locking mechanism to keep this rather stunning little shape in place. Little powder, little under, over, and another pin. So you're just methodically working through. Back to this side, I can decide how much of this I want to do. So again, another thin section, just right the way back. You can see the way it's bagging, so we just pull on the hair. Take any little knots that may have occurred just by playing with the hair. A little powder if you want. It doesn't take a lot. The powder is really fine and light, as I'm sure you know, and so it distributes really nicely. Back around. As you get to the longer hair, you're going to find it'll go around several times. So it might end on the underneath, it might end on the top. Just make sure you've got a grip on the end of the hair, and then put your pin in. If it drops, if a section falls, then put another pin in. The one thing with long hair that scares people is just the idea of doing it and what's it going to look like. You've got to remember, if you're a hairdresser, all the other things you do, are you a colorist, are you a cutter? You do the most amazing things. You completely change people's looks. You do makeovers where the cut is completely different when they leave from when they came in. Or you're doing a color which is a complete change from where they were, and you love it. But that is a permanent change which they can't do until it grows out. Long hair is something you work with, and if you don't like the shape or they're not keen, you take it down and start again. You know, I mean, obviously the more prep you do and the more understanding of what the client wants, that's great. But basically, you're working with long hair and you're having fun with it. And so you shouldn't be afraid of what it's going to do. As you get into longer areas and you're wrapping more, you can always use some fine pins in the top just to sink in, and they'll disappear, and they'll just help hold the shape into place. Back over to this side. And again, wrapping round, coming up, finishing, just letting that sit in. I think I'll use a bobby pin here on the end, and then I'm just going to take a fine pin and just place that on the top just to secure that a little bit more. I've got one more section here by the ear, for this particular mannequin or model. And then you have the underneath here, and we're going to talk about that separately in a minute. So let's grab this. Now if you want this to be baggier, decide from the beginning so that it's falling on the ear. I want this very clean around the ear. That's a choice. So if you don't want that, decide, because the security is going to be by wrapping at the back. You just want to make sure that what you're doing with the front is the sort of shape you want for that face shape or that person. Okay, coming on the underneath, up and over. So you get the idea. We're just building this shape, and it's so simple and easy once you get the technique. You're like, why didn't I think of that before? But it took me a long time to get this, because I love the classic chignon, that sort of French look. But it's like, how can I make this easier for people to do who don't do long hair or don't, are a bit worried about long hair, but also so that they can see something classic and beautiful out of it and think, wow, yeah, okay, I can do this now. And so this is what I came up with, and it's been working very well. And I've found, for fashion weeks and different events that we've done, it's been an ideal shape to vary. You can do a couple of shows and it doesn't even look like the same, but you'll see that, because over the next few videos we'll be doing variations of this to give you a little bit more confidence, and then we'll move into some other looks. So a little bit more spray here now. And then I just want to talk about these last two sections in the back. When you're doing a long hair look, it's quite easy to just get the idea now. You're seeing what I'm doing, you're like, oh yeah, and you just finish it off. But you also want to look at the face shape. You want to look at why you're doing that shape. The same as with colour or with cutting. If you're doing a colour, why are you adding shadow towards the face? Why are you adding lightening in certain areas? When you're doing a cut, why is a fringe higher? Why is it not done as wide? Why are you bringing it into the face? You've got reasons for the length, for the way you're doing things, or for the colour. Same with long hair. Now if we look at this, you've got those last sections. What difference can that make? Well, it's a classic sort of look. If you bring this up, if you look at that now, pulled over, it's got that sort of, it's almost Victorian, it's almost like a Vita as well. It's got that very classic sort of feeling. So by pulling it up, the shape all falls in together and it doesn't separate. If you just take this one last section on either side and you do this underneath, you immediately separate the back so that this chignon or the bun stands out a lot more 60s sort of thing. You could add a bit of lift in this top, do this in the back, and you've got more of a 60s sort of feeling. So again, all those little bits make a difference. And one more thing I'll show you on this video, just so that we don't have to repeat on another one. If you are doing a wedding, if you're doing a certain event, another thing you can do with this, you could bring all the shape as we have to the level that we have now, and then with these last couple of sections you could bring this down, flat iron it, and again you'd need to have someone that's got a low back dress and nothing like where the material is going to rub. But anyway, yeah, you could flat iron, hairspray this with C7, flat iron it, and then you can bring these up on either side and they can be loose. And so, there's a load of variations just from that initial first look. So always bear in mind how your finish is as important as your start to a look, as to planning where and how you want it to go. So here we are with the last section. Just going to pop a little hairspray on there, and I'm going to bring it up and over, under, and bring that over. Couple more pins. Excuse all the leaning across, but I'm on my own, as we all are right now. So I am my assistant. Okay, up and over again. Comb those ends out. Use your comb. I always say in many videos, your tail comb is your smallest finger. It's somewhere where you can get in the areas that you otherwise wouldn't. So if you push the hair with the comb, it means that you can manipulate the hair and get it into place. I'll twist this last one a little bit, just so that I've got a little bit more weight and fullness to the hair, which I was talking about before. Then I can bring this down. I'll grab another bobby pin. And then I'll just take a couple of hairpins just to clear up any ends that we may have. If you're doing this sort of shape and you're worried about it, it's not going to fall. I mean, once this is wrapped, it's wrapped. But if you're worried about a certainly blustery day or a certain event you're going to, you could take like a very fine hair net, which matches the colour of the hair you're doing. These are they're actually made of hair, or quite a lot of them are. So they're very, very fine. You could put that across and then you wouldn't see it. And so it would actually, you wouldn't lose the shape, and that could hold it into place. But generally, the shape should hold quite nicely. You know, if this was for a wedding or a certain event, you could then place flowers, you could place pearls, you could do all sorts of things into this to fancy the back up. The nice thing is, what you end up with is this very classic shape where you have a very smooth, clean front area, but then when you turn around to the side and then as you get to the back, you really get that interest coming through with the top and with the bottom chignon area, and it really holds and looks very nice. And you know, in 20 minutes or so, you've got a classic style. I would say, obviously, if you're just starting out, take longer. Take as long as you want. When you're wrapping that braid in the back and it's getting all fiddly and you can't get the pins in, breathe, start again, and just wrap it, and it will gradually start taking on that shape for you. And then you can start getting these crisscross pieces in place, because once you got that there, everything else falls into place. So, for now, this is our first little video on long hair. I will be working on a structure of this type, but changing it around again for the next video, so that you can start seeing how you can build one shape into another, gradually get more and more confidence, and then move into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So for now, I'd say stay home, stay healthy, stay your distance, and stay in touch, and we'll be doing another video for you soon. So from Electric London crew and myself, thank you so much. Take care and talk soon.